Broadcasting to you from the heart of northern Minnesota, this is the Roger Radio Show. And I am your host, Roger Radio. I'm fucking mad, people. I'm mad, people. Now, I know you guys are probably sitting there and you're asking yourselves, well, Roger, why are you so mad? Why do you have to be so pissy? Well, let me put it to you this way. Because it's Valentine's Day. Or more like Valentine's weekend. Because Valentine's Day is on Friday this year. And it's going to be probably expanding into Saturday. And there's a whole lot of you lovebirds out there who are going to be just showing off on your social media, which is the last thing I want to fucking see, where you're just smooching up to your husband, your wife, your fiance, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, etc. And while you guys are doing that, I'm sitting here like the fucking coal miner from the My Bloody Valentine movie. To all you lovebirds out there, go fuck yourselves, people. Fuck you. But that's not why I'm here today, ladies and gentlemen. That is not why I'm here today. I'm here for a more important topic, and that is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is the subject of today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because the Hall of Fame just recently announced their 14 nominations, which I want to get into. And out of all 14 of them, 8 of them are appearing on it for the very first time. The 14 nominees are Bad Company, The Black Crowes, Mariah Carey, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Billy Idol, Joy Division or New Order, Cyndi Lauper, Mana, Oasis, Outkast, Fish, Soundgarden, and The White Stripes. Those first timers are Bad Company, The Black Crowes, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Billy Idol, Mana, Outkast, and Fish. In retrospect, this is a very unique one. This is actually very interesting. We got some heavyweights here, and we got some really good bands. So I thought I'd take a moment to look into this, see what we got. We're going to start off with Bad Company, who is considered one of the most well-known supergroups in history, consisting of Paul Rodgers, who in my opinion is one of the most recognizable voices in rock and roll. You have Simon Kirkle, who is the drummer of Free, Mick Ralphs, who is the former guitarist of Mott the Hoople, and Boz Burrell, who is the bassist for King Crimson. The band ended up releasing a total of 12 albums in their whole entire careers. Now, obviously, we all know who Bad Company is. It's a very good band. A very good band indeed. Obviously, their well-known songs are like Bad Company, Can't Get Enough, Feel Like Making Love, Shooting Star, Burning Sky, and of course, Rock and Roll Fantasy, which is kind of an annoying song. It's not my cup of tea there. But I really love Bad Company, Shooting Star, and obviously Can't Get Enough. And then Burning Sky. Now, I think for these songs here, I really like Bad Company. It's probably my most favorite one from him. Or them, I should say. My bad. Now, right after the original lineup disbanded, Paul Rodgers would end up forming The Firm, another supergroup, with the former Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page. And by some funny coincidence, Bad Company was also managed by Led Zeppelin's former manager, Peter Grant. So there is kind of like a connection there and whatnot. But yeah, it's a very deserving lineup indeed. Very, very deserving nomination there. The next nominee who we have here is the Black Crowes, who have been around for a very long time. Now, the band consisted of Chris and Rich Robinson and Svev Pipian. They released a grand total of 9 albums so far, which is very good. I remember mostly the only time when I listen to their music is their debut album, Shake Your Moneymaker. And obviously, it's a really good list here. We got Jealous Again, Hard to Handle, Twice as Hard, and of course, my most favorite one, She Talks to Angels, which I hear consistently in my head over and over and over again. But this is another deserving one right here for me, in my honest opinion. Very deserving indeed. The next nomination is Mariah Carey. And we all know who Mariah Carey is. She released a grand total of 15 albums so far. Now, I don't listen to a whole lot of Mariah Carey. The only time when I really hear anything is when I'm playing the song All I Want for Christmas Is You on one of my radio shows that I always host for my Christmas special. The first time I even knew who she was, honestly, was because of her appearance in the movie You Don't Mess with the Zohan. And it's funny, I didn't think she was playing as her real self. I thought it was just a character. I actually thought it was, so, but you can't fault her for that and whatnot. But I'll tell you this, even at 55 years old, fuck, she still looks good as hell, man. Our next lineup here is Chubby Checker. And obviously, we all know who Chubby Checker is. He's pretty much well known for his covers of the songs The Twist and Pony Time. He had been around for a very long time. 83 years old. I don't think I'll even ever be able to make it to that age, honestly. But yeah, he's got a lot of really albums here. I'm just looking at how many there is. 16 or 17 albums, I think, is what he released total. But if you don't know the name Chubby Checker, then you don't know jack shit. But that's another worthy nomination right there. Another worthy one as well. Next nominee we have is Joe Cocker, known for his songs Feeling Alright and Unchain My Heart. He released about 22 total albums throughout his whole life. Now, obviously, I know who Joe Cocker is. We all know who he is. He's like one of the most recognizable voices of all time, and is often considered as one of the greatest singers of all time. Now, I don't listen to a whole lot of his music. I really don't much, but I think I should. But he is really, really good from what I was told, But that's another very deserving one right there, especially when he is considered one of the greatest singers of all time. But yeah, it's another very interesting one. Another good one right there, very deserving. The next one, obviously, is Billy Idol. And we all know who Billy Idol is, all right? We all know him. He released about a grand total of 8 albums. Even for like a 40-year career, 8 albums doesn't seem like enough, honestly, but they must be good enough big hits, right? Now, we all know that he was the guy who was the face of what is considered the MTV-driven second British invasion. Now, if you remember 20 years before that, there was the first British invasion, which was led by bands which was mainly headed by the Beatles, but then there was also the Rolling Stones and the Who are also among those. And most of their music was rock and roll. The second British invasion pretty much consisted of British synth pop and new pop music, which is kind of like a new wavy type of sound. So for Billy Idol to be the face of that, it's very damn impressive. He is known mostly for his songs White Wedding. I kept saying Redding for some reason. White Wedding, Eyes Without a Face, which was named after a 1960 black and white film of the same name, which is widely considered one of the most disturbing movies of all time. And then there's also Dancing with Myself, which I really kind of don't like. And then, of course, Rebel Yell, which is, in my opinion, one of the most fucking annoying songs ever. Ever. But I mostly know him by my most favorite song, Money Money. And obviously, if you don't know who Billy Idol is, Money Money is definitely a song that you need to listen to first. Plain and simple. White Wedding I really love also. But I would probably consider Money Money as the first one you need to listen to. Definitely. But for Billy Idol, for the fact that he was the face of the second British invasion, which was driven by MTV because they kept heavily promoting all that stuff, he deserves the Hall of Fame. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. This next nominee is a very sad one in my opinion. It's Joy Division, who was fronted by the likes of Ian Curtis, who was one of the most tragic stories in music, without a doubt. It also had Bernard Sumner, Peter Hook, and Stephen Morris. They released only 2 albums because right after, or probably before the second one came, Ian Curtis, who was suffering from severe depression, tragically took his own life just as they were starting to hit the peak of their success, which is extremely fucking sad, man. Really sad indeed. And in light of that, a new band would be born, which is called New Order. Not New World Order, if you're wondering. Not New World Order, folks. New Order. Bernard Sumner would take the lead vocals. And of course, it consisted of Peter Hook and Stephen Morris would go on to join for that group. There was also the likes of Gillian Gilbert, Phil Cunningham, and Tom Chapman as well in that lineup. New Order, under that name, would release 10 albums. Now, Joy Division, I've never listened to any of their music. I never really had. New Order, I obviously have listened to, mainly because of their song Blue Monday 1988. And it's so funny to think about because that song, it was playing on a commercial or ad that they made for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War in 2020. So that's kind of how I knew who they were. But yeah, that is another group that would be worthy of the Hall of Fame. Joy Division / New Order. Very deserving indeed. The next nominee right here, Mana. Now, I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I've never even heard of who they were. I've never listened to them. But I know from what I was reading up on them, they are a Latin pop rock band. They went under 2 names at that point. They were previously known as Sombrero Verde, which released 2 albums, and then started the Mana name, which comprised of 9 studio albums. Headed by the likes of Fier Olvera, Alex Gonzalez, Juan Caleros, and Sergio Valin. Now, this is a very interesting one for me right here because, let me just see if I can pull this up. Here we go. Mana actually has just made history. They had became the first Spanish language band to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The first ever. And so if they get inducted into the Hall of Fame, that solidifies their legacy. That really does. So I may have to actually take a look at this band now that I think about it. But to become the first Spanish language band to be nominated, that's just step one. Get inducted. Like, they get inducted into the Hall of Fame, man. That makes their legacy, without a doubt. So I'm going to wait and see how that one plays out, without a doubt. The next lineup, this is a very interesting one for me personally, because this is just coming just a half a year after they announced their reunion tour, and that is Oasis. We all know who Oasis is. I do. They released about 7 total albums total overall. Their leaders are obviously the Gallagher brothers, Liam and Noel. And right now they are just the current members. The official lineup or reunion lineup still has yet to be announced, but I remember them very, very fondly. And it's mainly because of What's the Story Morning Glory, which is considered one of the greatest albums of all time and one of the most important albums to come out of the 1990s Britpop movement. And if you've listened to Oasis, they were heavily influenced by the Beatles. Hell, even Liam Gallagher has a fucking son who's named Lennon. So that's pretty cool, you know? But, and What's the Story Morning Glory even has my most favorite song by Oasis of all time and one of my top 30 songs, Champagne Supernova. Even sadly, despite the success they had, one thing kept getting in their way, and it was the volatile relationship between Liam and Noel Gallagher, which is considered one of the ugliest sibling rivalries ever. And it would end up culminating in one of the ugliest and most violent breakups in rock and roll history, which culminated at their show in Paris, France in August of 2009 as they were finishing up their Dig Out Your Soul World Tour. They had about 4 shows left, and it ends up resulting in a very violent fight between the Gallagher brothers, which took place about 5 minutes before they were set to go on stage. But by then, Noel left the arena, got into his car, and just left. The band had to cancel at the last second, and then a few hours later, Noel announces, "I'm done. I quit Oasis." Oasis could have continued on without him. They could have continued the name without him, but nope, they didn't. Instead, they would end up creating a new group called BDI, which released only 2 albums. It comprised of Liam and the then Oasis members Gem Archer, Andy Bell, and Chris Sherrick, along with new recruit Jeff Wooten on bass. That lasted only a few years. Liam would end up creating or starting a solo career, while Noel Gallagher would create the High Flying Birds, or Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, which released about 4 albums and who are still together today, with Gem Archer and Chris Sherrick joining his band, while Andy Bell returned to his original band, Ride. What makes it interesting about the lineup right here is that Ringo Starr's son, Zach Starkey, was actually a drummer for them. He actually performed as a drummer for Oasis, so that's kind of cool. It is still currently unknown right now who is going to be part of the reunion tour for Oasis when they start soon. But I'll tell you this, in my honest opinion, it should be Paul Arthurs, Paul McGuigan, and Alan White for that reunion tour. But that remains to be seen. But Oasis, they fucking deserve the Hall of Fame too. They really deserve it. Um, the next group that we have is Outkast, a hip hop group that was consisting of Big Boy and Andre 3000. They've released about a total of 6 albums. Now, I know these guys very well. I really do. Mainly because of their songs Hey Ya and The Way You Move. Now, Hey Ya obviously is being played around the whole fucking radio. Like, you could find it everywhere on radio. The Way You Move, I remember this one very fondly because it consisted, or if you've watched the movie Shark Tale, then I'm sure some of you probably played the video game for it. Shark Tale, the video game. They had so much music that was being played on every single level on that game. It's probably makes it memorable for me. But Outkast's song The Way You Move had to appear on one of the fucking dancing levels on the Shark Tale games, which was considered the worst fucking experience of my life. Those were video game levels that I could not pass on my own. It was at the time considered the bane of my existence. I literally had to have my fucking sister help me get past the fucking level. And every time I listen to the song The Way You Move, I keep getting reminded of those fucking traumatic levels. It was a trauma that still lives with me today. But anyway, it's another group that deserves the Hall of Fame. Really does. The next lineup that we have is hang on a sec. Okay, I just fixed it. The next nominees we have is Phish. Phish, not Fish. You fucking fisherman. But I'll be honest with you, just like with Mana, I've never listened to their music. I never have. But I know, but from what I read up on them, they are like one of those jam bands, jam rock bands, you know, that does also psychedelic rock and experimental rock, jazz fusion, funk rock. They've been around a long time too, from what I've seen. They've released about a total of 16 albums. The lineup consists of Trey Anastasio, John Fishman, Mike Gordon, and Paige McConnell. They have a former member who was in that group called Jeff Holdsworth. And these guys obviously have been around for a very long time, nearly 3 decades. Or over 3, yeah, nearly 3 decades is actually what I meant to say. Sorry, folks. But this is a group that I may have to check out too then, if that ends up being the case. They obviously have been well known for their I'm just looking at something quick, ladies and gentlemen. There was a song that they ended up making for the Seattle Seahawks, which was called Wilson, which was the opening line they would always make whenever their former quarterback, Russell Wilson, took the field during game. The new tradition started after Anastasio made the suggestion at shows in Seattle. The story behind the Wilson chat would be featured in a 2014 documentary short by NFL Films. So, I don't know, folks. I may have to check this out. So, aside from what I just told you, I literally cannot say any more than that. I really can't. Now, this is another exciting lineup who I really want to see for the Hall of Fame. Soundgarden, who comprises of the most enthusiastic singer of all time in Chris Cornell, Kim Thayil, Matt Cameron, and Ben Shepherd. And this band has released 6 albums. 6 albums. Now, we all know who Soundgarden is. Alongside with Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and Nirvana, Soundgarden, all 4 of them helped create the sound that we all know as the Seattle grunge sound. So that's also another cultural significance to why they should be in the Hall of Fame. And but the sad story is, just like with Joy Division's Ian Curtis, Chris Cornell's also another sad story because he also was starting to suffer from depression and substance abuse, which ultimately ended up leading to his untimely death in 2017 from suicide. I remember where I was that day when I heard the news. I was in a hotel room in St. Cloud, Minnesota, getting ready for a baseball game when I got the news, and I broke down in tears. Right afterwards, I ended up playing. We had a Bluetooth speaker in our dugout, and I ended up playing some Soundgarden in there as a tribute. And when I told my baseball coach, he was stunned as hell, and he was like, play some tributes. Let's get some tributes going. We all know that Soundgarden became known for a lot of their songs like Spoon Man. Outshine's a good favorite one of mine, but my most favorite one, Black Hole Sun, which is actually one of my hangover songs. Hangover songs. Right between when they broke up in 1997 until their reunion in 2010, Chris Cornell ended up going off to not only do his solo career, but he also ended up forming another rock supergroup with Rage Against the Machine members Tom Morello, Tim Comerford, and Brad Wilk, which we all know as Audioslave. So, and pretty much in layman's terms, Soundgarden does deserve it. When they reunited in 2010, they ended up releasing their sixth album in 2012, the year that I graduated high school, and they even contributed a song to the Avengers soundtrack, the first Avengers movie. Very deserving indeed. Absolutely deserving. Our final nominees here are the White Stripes, consisting of former husband and wife Jack and Meg White. They've released about a total of 6 albums overall. And I mostly remember their song, or I know them by their song, Seven Nation Army. And the reason why that song always sticks in my fucking head is because at football practice in college football, when I was at Mesabi Range College, whenever we would finish up our practices with our kicker having to kick how many field goals to conclude our practices, everyone at practice would start humming Seven Nation Army, which is kind of like a traditional thing to always do, you know? And then there's another song that I remember mostly is We're Gonna Be Friends, which the only reason I know about that song is because it was the song that opens the movie Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon fucking Dynamite. This one here is a very interesting one for me. They do deserve the Hall of Fame too, you know? And yeah, by looking at the year their debut album came out, it does seem about right. So they are around the 25-year mark. I can't remember if I said it or not, honestly, because I'm so tired. But I do believe, in my honest opinion, it should be at least 30 years after after their debut albums. That is my take on it. Well, we finally got through the whole fucking lineup, obviously. Basically, this is what John Sykes, the chairman of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation, said. He says, these remarkable nominees have each created their own musical style and attitude, impacting generations of music lovers and contributing to the ever-evolving sounds and continued growth of rock and roll. All right. Nominee ballots will be distributed to an international voting panel composed of over 1,200 artists, historians, and music industry professionals. The selection criteria include an artist's impact on music culture, influence on other musicians that have followed, as well as the scope and longevity of their career and body of work. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading this off of the website. So I will link the website or this web link in the description below, so that way you can check it out for yourselves. It goes on to say, the 2025 performer inductees will be revealed in late April, along with those inductees entering the hall under 3 special committee categories: musical influence, musical excellence, and the Ahmed Artagan Non-Performer Award. This year's induction ceremony will take place in Los Angeles in the fall, with exact dates and ticket sale details following soon. Select Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members and donors receive exclusive opportunities to secure tickets to the induction ceremony. Visit www.rockhall.com/membership for more information. Press can access high-resolution images and biographies of the 2025 nominees at www.rockhall.com/pressroom. Applications for media credentials to cover the induction ceremony will open in July. This whole paragraph that I read will be credited to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course. I just wanted to read it so that all of you can see it or hear it for yourselves. So, what's my final take on this whole thing? It's quite simple, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of deserving names that are on this list right here. Bad Company obviously deserves it. Black Crowes obviously deserves it. Billy Idol, I know personally deserves it. Cyndi Lauper deserves it. Oasis, Outkast, and Soundgarden deserve it. And the White Stripes. Those are my votes right there. But of course, I don't know where to fucking vote at, so I'll just leave it at that. But I will be interested to see how it goes. Now, as soon as the inductions or the inductees get announced, I will make a podcast about this with my friend Nick or Aegis, Don Levity. And I will see if my other friend Adam will join in, because he will also try and join as a part-time host as well on this show. He is also giving me credit to play some of his music, which you are obviously going to hear in the intro and outro here. But yeah, this list right here, a very, very fucking interesting list right here. There are so many good artists that are on this here, and I cannot wait to see who does get inducted. But there's a lot of them who do very well deserve it. It is a long time coming for a lot of these people, and their music is very influential. Very influential indeed. A lot of these bands and musicians, they obviously have albums that are considered among the greatest of all time. And to not get inducted, it's like a slap in the face. I don't know how many inductees will be voted in, but we will see what happens. That's going to do it for this small podcast. I'm sorry that I couldn't go long, but I got a lot of other shit that I need to do. You will also be seeing another podcast from me coming soon. As Aegis, Don Levity, and myself will be reviewing Dream Theater's brand new album, Parasomnia. We will be doing that as well. And I want to say thank you all so much for listening in. And as always, until next time, ta-ta for now.